This video goes over how to find a computer or technology job when you have a degree and no experience. Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Brown. This is a common problem we see students have upon graduation. You might have a degree in computer science, or information systems, or information technology, or some other degree, but you have no experience, maybe an internship, and you want to find that first job, which is the hardest to find. Once you get a job and you start gaining experience, things are kind of different. You have more experience and you can kind of move around into different areas of the field. Here are my credentials. I think a lot of people give advice on the internet that have no credentials and no reason to be giving advice. So I want to tell you quickly why I think I'm uniquely positioned to give advice on this topic. I am a real person. There's my picture in the upper right-hand corner. I spent 20 years building software. During that time, I was a technical manager. I hired and fired a lot of people. 20 years or more, I've had my own consulting company, but I've also have a lot of experience in academia. If you look on the right, I've taught over 100 college course sections at 14 universities, all different types of universities, public, private, small, medium, large, community college, historically black. So I've a lot of experience. Many of that time I spent as a full-time faculty member. I was a program director for much of it, where I gave advice to students to find jobs. So I have counseled countless students into finding, getting their first job, and I'm convinced that this is the best way to do it. Obviously, the first thing you want to do is pick your occupation, and this should be based upon your degree and your interests, what you want to do. So here's a few. This is not all of the occupations, but you want to pick one or two. Some people are just convinced that they want to do one, and they should probably only apply to those kind of jobs, but some people are kind of interested in a few. Interesting note, the first one of software engineer, building software. About half of all IT jobs are software engineers. So the first one, software engineering, is about 50% of all the people that work in technology. The rest of the occupations make up the other 50%. So let's talk about your resume. So before we get into building your resume, you have to understand what happens at a job before they post an opening. Technology jobs are stressful. There's often not enough people. And when someone leaves, it becomes even more stressful because you have to do the work of the person who left and you have to find a replacement. So they need to look at a resume quickly and know the candidate's skills to know who they want to interview them, and pick a replacement. They cannot and will not call to ask you questions about your resume for missing information that they think is important. They will not go to your university's website and research the courses or the degree that you took. If they don't see what they are looking for, they will move on to the next resume. Now, here is a rule of thumb that's been true in the field for at least 30 or 40 years, and that is normally the average pay of an entry-level person is about half the average pay of a senior person, but their productivity is a factor of 10. So an entry-level person's productivity is 1/10 that of a senior-level person. So why would anyone ever want to hire an entry-level? And that is a good point. Well, eventually there's not enough senior people and they hire mid-level, and there's not enough mid-level and they hire entry, and eventually you will get your first job. What you need to know about your resume. They want to be able to quickly look at it and know the skills, technology, and experiences you have. So for everything you've done in your courses, think of it as in two dimensions. One is what you built. For example, you might have in one of your classes built a website to track drug overdoses. The second dimension is what was used to build it. You might have used Java, more specifically servlets and JSPs. You might have used a MySQL database and Linux. Of the two dimensions, the most important dimension is number 2. That is to say, if I had the choice to hire someone, I had 2 candidates to hire. One had the same product but with different technologies. So, for example, maybe they had done a drug overdose website in Microsoft technology. Or number two, different product with the same technologies. Maybe candidate two had used Java, servlets, JSPs, MySQL, Linux to build an inventory control system. I would pick number two every time. The technologies is more important than what you built. So keep that in mind. So you'll probably start at the top of your resume. So I'm going to, the next few slides on the left, I'm going to give you advice, and on the right, I'm going to kind of build like a running resume. So at the top, you'll probably put your name, your address, your cell phone, your email address at the top. Good idea to have like a skills summary section, so they don't even have to scroll and look for things. This normally contains categories of skills, like programming language is a category. There might be different based upon what job or degree you have. In my example, I only have a few categories, but a few for each category, but you should put down whatever you know. So if you've had experience with 15 programming languages, you list them all. And I would say list them in order of importance, most to least important. So, in this example, the programming languages are Java, Python, C++. You have a category for databases, operating systems. So think back through all the courses you took and what you did, what technologies or software you use, and start categorizing it into these categories and build a skills summary section. You probably want a section for your degree. You have the whole line. I would write out your degree, Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science. That looks more impressive to me than BScs or BS in Computer Science. Write it out. So you'll probably have that section. Think about the experience you gained in the courses that's not exam, quizzes, and papers. So what kind of coding assignments, database assignments did you do? Thoroughly explain them. So you might even have so much that you need to break that into subcategories. So on the right here, you'll see I have a header called computer experience. Normally you would call work experience, but you don't have any real work experience in the field. So I kind of renamed it computer experience, and then I have a header 2 in the word processor, which would be a subheader called Coolsville University, like your university. So this is the computer experience you gained at your university. And maybe I want to be a programmer. So subheadings, header 3s would be programming, databases, and networking in that order. If I want to be a programmer, the most important thing is my programming experience, and then database, and then maybe networking. But you can have whatever categories match your degree and match your occupations you want to apply for. So now, if you think about something you did in your courses, how do you explain it? I actually reviewed someone's resume once, and they actually had the course numbers in their resume. And I guess they think whoever reads their resume is going to go to their website and look up in the course catalog the description of the courses, but they will not do that. They will just move on to the next resume. So do not put your course numbers in. Let's see if we can make this a little better. So instead of saying CMS C451, relational databases. So that's better. Now I know if I'm the potential hiring manager that this is on relational databases. They have some relational database experience. Let's see if we can make it better. Because with relational databases, what did you install them? Are you an operations person? Did you build them? Are you a coder for Oracle coding the RDBMS? Or are you taking Oracle RDBMS and building databases? I don't know. Databases isn't clear enough, specific enough. So you created relational databases. Okay, that gets better. What kind of database? Oracle. That gives me more information. Now I wrote created Oracle relational databases, data definition language, DDL scripts, and data manipulation language, DML scripts. So this is telling me that you know how to build the structure of the database and put data in it. It also shows me that as a reader, that you know what DDL and DML are. So in a way, you're explaining what you did, but you're also trying to demonstrate to the reader that you know about relational databases. You want to try to impress them with what you know. Also, sometimes when resumes are reviewed, they're first reviewed by human resources, someone who's non-technical, and they are skimming for keywords. So some people call it data definition language. It's often short DDL. So you notice I put both in. So if there's two ways to name something, I would do one and then in parentheses put the other. But still, maybe not as specific enough. So I can maybe modify this. So now I have created Oracle Relational Database data definition language scripts and data manipulation language scripts to retrieve, insert, update, and delete data. So now I'm kind of telling them that in DML, I know that the four types of DML commands are retrieve, insert, update, and delete. But maybe we can make it even better. I started looking here as I evolved this into the first word, created. Well, I know from being an engineer that when you create something, there's sub-steps. There's design, development, testing. One fear that people have with hiring entry-level people is they have no idea what they're doing. They're gonna write code and never test it and stuff. So this kind of puts some D's. So I wrote designed, developed, and tested Oracle Relational Database, data definition language, DDL scripts, and data manipulation language, DML scripts to retrieve, insert, update, and delete data. Executed scripts on Oracle database in the cloud. So very detailed, very impressive. And maybe I would want to add even more on what the script was. I could maybe add another sentence saying that the scripts created an inventory control system. So now I'm telling both dimensions what it did and what was used to build it, but giving more emphasis on what was used to build it. So in the specific subcategories, you want to have bullets on the major things that you did. And some people have 3 bullets with a lot. Some people have more bullets, but put in everything you've done. Regardless, don't worry about necessarily how many bullets. I'm sure if you took a database course or a few, something with databases or data that you would have, a hand, 2 or 3, at least 3. If you've taken programming courses, you've probably built quite a few little programs. You could put maybe 5, 6 programming ones, but you want to kind of fill out in that kind of format the details of what you've done. And a little rule that a lot of people have is whatever you put in your skills section should be somewhere else in your resume explaining what you did with it. So if I said in my skills section I programmed in Java, I should have Java listed somewhere else in my resume explaining what I did in Java. Okay, now you might ask me, between the skills section and the computer experience section, what is important? And there's a whole bunch of things I list here. Development, some people care about the development environment, like did you use Eclipse or NetBeans or Visual Studio, the programming language, the database, all of these things. And the answer is, what's the most important thing? The answer is it depends on who reads your resume. And you won't know that. So put down as much detail as you can. A good example, I never used to care when I hired people what development environment they used. If you're a good Java programmer, I don't care if you used Visual Studio, Eclipse, NetBeans, it didn't matter to me. But I, not too long ago, was at a talk by someone who worked for another company, and they were convinced that they wanted people that used Visual Studio. So if you don't know what the reader cares about, you have to provide as much information as you can. Another thing you can do is, as you will read job openings, look for words you don't know. Add them to your vocabulary. So at least if you get to an interview and they ask you, do you know anything about whatever, you'll know what it is and you won't look embarrassed and say, what's that? So begin to learn from job openings what people are looking for, and that will help you customize your categories and your computer experience. If at any job you've held, you did some computer work, regardless if that was your primary function, make another section in the computer experience area for that. So for example, maybe you were a cook at McDonald's, but they knew you liked computers, so whenever they had to change the menu items in the cash registers and the point of sale systems, they asked you to help. Maybe whenever the computer in the office needed updating, you did that. You want to put that section down. You don't know why it's going to be relevant, but it might be in the long run. Like maybe maybe the group that you're going to work for wants to hire you, but human resources said we can't hire them unless they have 1 year of professional programming experience. And the people that want to hire you at the company might say, well, technically this thing they did at McDonald's is programming. I mean, when you are programming a point of sale system, that is programming. And I've seen a lot of companies, people internally within companies want to hire someone or not hire someone, and they need the information to help build their case. So if you've done anything else at any job, even if it was not your primary job at that place, that was computer or technology related, make a new subsection under computer experience and put that in. If you have extra time and you want to gain experience, here is something to consider. Volunteer for an open source project. Now, you won't get paid, but you can then add a new section under computer experience. Volunteer to fix bugs, test the software, write technical documents. Imagine how impressive it would be to be sitting at an interview and someone says, what do you know about MySQL? And you said, well, I helped code it because you worked on the open source and you wrote, you fixed bugs on it. Or I created a suite of regression tests for it. That would be pretty impressive. And that's somebody with no work experience. But if you work on an open source software, you get a lot of connection, a lot of experience on it. It will allow you to meet people in the field, and you can ask them for references, and it also will let you meet the customers of that product. So now you can add a new subsection under computer experience with this experience, what you did for one of the open source projects. Other job experience, have another section of just job experience of all the places you work to make money. You have no idea if that's ever going to be relevant or not. And here in these bullets, I give a few examples. In the left, if you had done this previously, it would have helped you get the job as a technology job in a field on the right. And all of these fields on the right are jobs I held. I mean, they're very common. So I once wrote medical billing software. When I applied for the job, I had no idea we were going to do medical billing. The customer wasn't a medical provider. I have not been a pharmacy technician, but imagine if I had been a pharmacy technician for a couple years to maybe pay my way through college. How impressive that would have looked to help me get that job, because now I know a lot of the stuff about medical billing that I need to know about on my job. I once wrote finance software. Imagine if I had done accounting or bookkeeping. That would have really helped me get that job. I wrote software for a manufacturing company. What if I had worked in a factory? That would be pretty relevant. When I started working for the company that did manufacturing, I knew nothing about manufacturing. Educational administration. What if I had worked in a school office? That would have helped me understand the concepts that need to go into the technology. So you have no idea if your past experience is going to be relevant for a job, so you should put it down. When in doubt, put it on your resume. Now, before I go into cover letter, one of the biggest mistakes people make is they listen to their career development center to say there should only be a one-page resume. That might be true in other fields, but it is not true in our field. Even with a degree and no experience, you probably should have a 1.5 page resume. When I left industry after 20 years, my resume was 5 or 6 pages. No one expects a computer or technology resume to be 1 page. And if you try to cram everything in there, it will prohibit you from getting jobs. So don't make very small font trying to cram it all into 1 page. Make normal size font. Your computer experience section just for your university should probably be at least 1/2 page. So if you think about all the things you did when you were in school that was technology related and you wrote it up the way I showed you, that alone should be 1/2 page. So you should spill into page 2 and probably end up with a 1.5 to 2 page resume. All right, let's talk about cover letters. Don't spend a lot of time writing a unique cover letter for every job. Later in your career, you'll apply for less jobs that are more precision. Early in your career, you want to apply for sheer quantity of jobs. It's quantity, quantity, quantity. So I would make a basic cover letter where you can just, maybe a paragraph at the top and one at the bottom, and then you can maybe add a few things in the middle to how you think you address the job needs. But make it kind of generic and don't spend a lot of time on it. Okay? You can't slow yourself down and spend 10, 15 minutes writing a resume, a cover letter for every job you're going to apply for. Okay, now you got to set some goals. How many resumes are you going to send? You need to set a goal of how much you're going to meet every week, and that is your job. It's more important than hanging out with friends. It's more important than checking social media. Whatever your goal is your job. It's more important than Netflix. So each week you got to keep searching until you find the goal, until you meet your goal. Here's what I typically suggest. If you work full time, or if you are a full-time student with maybe a part-time job, 20 a week. You got to keep looking till you apply to 20 a week and keep track of how many you've done and what jobs you've applied to. If you don't work full-time, I would say 10 a day for 5 days. So every day, Monday to Friday, you got to apply to 10. You got to keep looking until you send your resume 10 different places. You need to promise yourself you're not going to stop. You're never going to miss your goal until you get that job. You might need to send 100, 200, 300, or 400, maybe even more than 400. I once had a spell where I sent about 350. But I've known people who have sent like 15. It's really just a matter of it's a matter of there's a probability that every resume will produce a job. And some people hit that early and some people hit it late. So expect you're going to send hundreds, but regardless of how many you send, you're not going to stop sending until you get the job. So how do you find these 20 a week or 10 a day to apply for? Great question. Okay, do not too quickly eliminate yourself and not apply for a job. Job descriptions are very detailed and they probably won't find what they're looking for. So that's their ideal candidate, but they may not find it. If it says senior or security clearance needed, I would skip those. But if it says 2 to 5 years experience, apply for it because they may not find somebody with 2 to 5 years experience for the price they're offering. So it's not your job to eliminate yourself. And some people will go out and they'll only apply for a job if it says entry level, no experience needed. Nobody writes that. Sometimes they want someone with 2 to 5 years experience, and for what they have, the money they have, they can't get it and they have to settle for less. If it doesn't list a minimum experience, apply for it. So when in doubt, apply, apply, apply. I also got a job once where I had sent a resume in for job A, and they called me about a new job, job B, that they hadn't paid to advertise for. And they hired me and they saved all the advertising money for the job. So if you know they do Oracle databases, send a resume. They might have another job that maybe they didn't advertise for because it's, a lower tier job that doesn't make as much profit for them. So you want to get your resume in front of people. So apply, apply, apply. So here are large government contractors. These are companies that have tens of thousands plus employees. You can find lists of these probably searching on the web. I'm not going to go through them all. Many of them, like IBM and Lockheed, you've heard of. Some of the other ones you may not have heard of, but once you learn about them, you'll learn they're incredibly large. Many big companies don't pay to advertise on job boards because they're so big, people just come to their website. So start going through lists like this of going directly to their website and searching for jobs and applying for them. I live in Maryland, so I would go and find a list of the largest employers in Maryland. You should, wherever you live, go Google what's the 20 largest employers in whatever state you live in. Every large employer has a ton of IT people. You might think Marriott here is a hotel company, but the Marriott Corporation has a huge percent of their employees are IT. There's a lot of software behind a company like Marriott. Geico is insurance. Insurance is lawyers, accountants, and computer people. It's like a third. That's what makes up insurance. Medical is huge amounts of technology. So you find your largest employers. Also, there are technology product companies like the Microsoft, Oracle, Google. You can go to their websites and look for jobs as well. Try to look at sectors at a time. So think of the different types of companies in your area: financial services, hotels, government, education, healthcare, manufacturing, transportation, insurance, whatever. On a particular day, pick a sector and get a list of the ones in your area and systematically go top to bottom. So for example, education. School districts hire IT people because they have computer networks and computer systems and all kinds of software, versions of Blackboard that need to be maintained. So I would get in, whatever state you're in, a list of all the school districts and systematically go through them one at a time. Healthcare, hospital, every hospital has IT people. There's computers everywhere in a hospital. They must have IT people. List of hospitals in your area one day. Start at the top, go one by one, down through. Colleges and universities have IT departments. Get a list of the colleges in your state. Start at the top, systematically go through, instead of just kind of jumping around. Job search engines. Now, job search engines employers pay to post on a job search engine. So a job that's on Monster probably is not on Indeed or ZipRecruiter because they have to pay a separate fee. So don't just look at one job board engine, rotate through all of them. Once you're done with this list, go back to the very beginning, and it will be so long of time has elapsed since you've gone through all of these to get your quota every week that the jobs at the very beginning will be new jobs. So this list of stuff is so extensive that you can systematically go through it really forever. And by the time you get to the end, you can go back to the beginning and do the whole thing over again because there'll be new jobs listed. Okay, good luck. Final thoughts. The key really is to be persistent and send out pure quantity. Quantity is what will get you your first job. And try to be as detailed as possible in your resume, especially on the technology and technologies that you've used. All right, I hope this helps. Thanks a lot.